Hi, I'm Barbara Mandel. I'm fortunate to be the chair of this year's 23rd Annual Mission Hills Garden Walk. We have 9 incredible gardens on this year's tour, and the tour was held on May 8th, which is typical for us because we have it's always Mother's Day weekend. We hope that you will enjoy this virtual tour of the 23rd Annual Garden Walk.
Well, in my tea garden, I have chamomile, yarrow, stevia, lemon balm, lemon, verbena. I believe that's all in the tea garden. Then I have next to that my raised beds, and they just got turned over for summer. So there's zucchini, tomatoes, cantaloupe, watermelon. Let's see what else, basil, strawberries. And then in my in-ground beds, I have herbs with flowers for pollinators. And then against the wall, there's blackberry and raspberry. And the fruit trees are lime, apricot, Meyer lemon. I have a pomegranate, and in one corner, a fig. Let's see, the inspiration for the mermaid garden, I think it was like years and years ago, it was the Del Mar Fair, and they had this really beautiful bed of succulents that was to mimic a coral reef. And I thought, oh, someday I'm going to do that. So that's the inspiration. And just little bits by little bits, I changed it along that path. And then added a lot of glass things that are supposed to look like bubbles. Yeah, so this is the angel part, and the demon part is past the white gate. So just over the years, I found I had collected a bunch of lovely planter heads, and they looked like angels to me. So I just went with that theme and kind of grouped them together. And then this hedge is as old as the house. The house was built in 1926, so this hedge is almost 100 years old. And I think the intertwining branches are just really beautiful. There's 13 gargoyles or demons in here, and I thought it would be fun for the kids who come on to see if they can find all 13. There's one that's super hard to find, and I'll show you if you'd like to. It's the hatching one right here that's an egg, and the eyes are peering out.
But we've always had a very large vegetable garden, so we did raised beds with mostly vegetables. And we do have a butterfly garden here for butterfly and pollinators, and we have lots of winter vegetables. And we're right in a transition now. I let some lettuce go to seed so the kids could kind of see the go to seed process. But so those and the peas will come out this week and other things. But we've already planted cucumber and tomato, so it's right in between right now here for San Diego. We all use the compost bin. We have a worm farm that's back in the shade behind one of the houses. We've had that for 15 years. And we use the worm tea and the worm castings, and every single time we replant, we redo this soil. In this area, the only plant that was here when we bought this whole property that's left is that Schefflera in the corner, which is a really wonderful little specimen. And we have the red door that enters into it, which we love. And so we wanted something that was soft on the ground but still steady, so we've really worked with the different kinds of things that will grow between these stones. And the baby steers are winning out, by the way, which is a surprise to me. I didn't think they would, but they're winning out. And we've done some other things too, but we're kind of watching to see of 2 or 3 different things, kind of how they're all going to make it. So we're enjoying watching that. And we've got 4 different citrus trees back here, and I have grow lights on them because we get shade here as soon as the sun moves midday. And they've made a huge difference in these 4 little citrus trees that we're going to eventually, hopefully, will grow all against these walls. And so we're watching, and we're getting blooms, and they've grown significantly. So that's going to be kind of a fun experiment too.
In the garden here, we have a large cup of gold vine, and when the contractor was renovating the home, they jacked the vine up. They completely removed the trellis below and rebuilt it to the exact same specifications, and then lowered the vine back on it. So you can see how large the trunk and the roots are over here. There are also, there's a Torrey pine and a few other large trees that Kate Sessions has written about, and so she may have been involved in planting them originally. There's also 2 large Montezuma cypress, which were probably planted by Kate Sessions. There's a large podocarpus. Pergola was added, and the fireplace was added. The garden shed is original, but we refurbished some brick that was used for pathways previously, and we set out the plant beds and used the original brick as the edging. So we've got roses, gardenias, various salvias, penstemon. Okay, the lion head was originally mounted in the pool area against the house, and there was a small fountain that wasn't operational. So we saved the lion head and we built a new small fountain on another wall, and we used the lion head in that fountain.
The front was our priority, so that one's totally done. That's exactly the way I want it. We're still working on this area. We had to take a lot of ferns out. I mean, they had a really nice garden, but it just wasn't our style, so we had to take a lot of ferns out and change the grass and put more shrubs. We want a little more privacy from the neighbors, even though we love our neighbors, but we like a little privacy. And added more flowers, more trees, and we just had fun doing it. But it's taken us almost 3.5 years. It takes a long time. Well, we thought that was a fountain. It's a jacuzzi. So when you put the jacuzzi on, you get the fountain too. But we can run the fountain anytime we want to. It's pretty nice. It's fun to have.
And it's been here forever?
I don't think it's been here forever. I think it was. I think the Humphreys put this in. So that was probably not when it was built, but after. So maybe in 1960 or 70, I'm guessing.
And how old is your home?
It was built in 1925. The olive trees are 50 years old, and after they stop producing, they usually just take them down. And so you can buy these trees, and they shipped them down. And we're pretty fortunate they made it because they're pretty sensitive, but they seem to be doing great. We're happy about that. And then we have a table that's made out of reclaimed wood from an old barn, which is always fun. So a lot of old things here.
I've always wanted to do a really authentic Southwest garden. I came from the Northwest. We had 15 acres and we did nothing but Northwest deciduous type plants. And this was an experience for me because I knew nothing about succulents. I knew nothing about cactuses or anything. So my front yards, I started with smaller plants, but in this area, I felt like it deserved to have full grown. And then we just keep them maintained. We have papaya, mango. We actually put in guava recently, and there's also, I think it's called loquat. And all the way down the hillside is wonderful oranges and Meyer lemons, and just a wonderful variety of wonderful things down there. So,
well, I think I've always loved the bougainvillea. They're beautiful, and I enjoy the iachroma, the ones that flank the diagonal stairs here, and I love the burgundy plants in the front yard, the rosebud tree, and all of the fringe flower, loropetalums. I think they're dramatic against all the rocks. We had the front yard designed by Jeremy Fulmer, and he and his crew did the work, and that was, well, it was before our last garden tour by a few years, so it's probably been 14 or 15 years now since they did the original work on the front.
We haven't made a ton of changes, just, as just replacing things that don't do well. My husband added a few plumerias in the front. He is probably the one I wish you could talk to because he's good at taking care of things. He's, the scientist in him likes to study that. So, done just adding a few roses, the plumerias, just caring for it all, really. I think so. I think she put a lot of the gates on the walls and stuff, a little bit of a Moroccan kind of a walled garden kind of feel. She repeated a lot of patterns. I think even the table, and the tiles and that kind of thing. It's just very repetitive patterns. We have a Mexican lime, and then the kumquats, a small mandarin, and then the lemon, the variegated lemon, is the leaves and the fruit have a little bit of a striped look to them, and then when you slice into the lemons, they're pink. So we have called it a pink lemonade tree, but I thought I kind of made that up. So I don't know. Maybe it's somewhere like that.
Well, he was very artistic and very creative, and he did everything in this yard. Everything is done by him, as far as the fence, this patio, which is very uneven. He made himself out of the old driveway. So our old driveway was broken up to put a new one in, and he took all the parts and made this patio. So that's why it's very funky looking. And then this over here is an art project from his high school class. He was a high school art teacher, and at Garfield High School Continuation School, that was in the main entry before they tore the school down to build a new school. And so he confiscated it because they were going to throw it away, put it back together, and that's what it is. And so each one of those little squares is done by a student. It's got a name. I don't know the name of the art, but that's one of his art projects. So he built all the rock work except this is original from the house, when the steps in the side here, but the rest of it he all built himself. That was a pond originally, but we were having trouble keeping a fish alive, so he built a planter box out of it. And the canyon was just, when we bought the house, was just a big blob of nothing. So we haven't got a lot of landscaping down there, but the nasturtiums are all natural. But he built the railing and the walkway and this little empty spot down at the bottom of the stairs. My husband built all of that into the canyon himself. So, but other than that, it's just pretty much all natural. This is a very low maintenance yard. Extremely. We don't really have to do a whole lot.
Well, I think the big thing is when we first moved in here in the lower level, we had citrus trees. And we had a citron in the middle that had been here since the very, very beginning. And so that's almost, it was 95 years old. And it started showing its age right after the garden walk back in 2006. And then it just finally we tried to save it, and we just kept cutting it back, and it just wouldn't do. And then there was a lemon tree to the side and also a Valencia orange tree. And so we took those out. So we planted our new orchard, which is, we got nectarines, pluots, and Santa Rosa plums down the lower level. Well, anyway, we figure that probably in about 20 or 30 years there might be large enough to get some fruit off of it, although the nectarine is showing a little bit of a life to it. And so the thing that's really has changed is the fact that because this house has been around so long, since 95 years, a lot of things that were planted here originally just kind of had died away. And then one of the other examples is down on the lower level, we used to have the bottle brush, and those were gorgeous, that used to spread out across the trellis. And the patio down there in the lower level, and those died out. So we had to transplant those, and those died about a year ago. So the biggest changes really have been things that have just died. And then we had a podocarpus, tree that was in the corner, and for some reason San Diego County is susceptible. Those trees in San Diego County are susceptible to disease, and that particular species ended up dying. So we tried to plant his little brother, and he's kind of not doing all that wonderfully. So the majority of the changes really have been as a result of things that used to be here that just started dying out. Yeah, the fountain, we don't know who designed that exactly, but that's been, we think it's at least as old as this house, which this house was completed in 1927, started construction in 1926. And then we have yellow wild roses. Yeah, it's a Newport Island pine, or else it's a Norfolk Island pine. And when you look it up, both terms are interchangeable. But at one time, in terms of the vernacular, they used to call it the missionary tree, because if you look at it at the very top, as they start growing, there'll be branches that'll be in the form of a cross up on top.